Imagine this. You're one baby among hundreds conceived via single batch to a pair of hopeful new parents. Your family has weird names. You and your siblings are collectively known by constitutional clauses, where you are known by the Commerce Clause to be exact. Your parents are the legislative branch and the executive branch. Let's overlook this naming scheme for now. If my misspells things a bit, you end up as a standout among your siblings. How? Well, you see, you are part of a family known as the federal government, trusted by the people of your local village, the United States, to protect the people from outside threats, as well as settle disputes from within and help the village prosper. You specifically are part of the Constitution of the U.S., which means that you and your sibling clauses together have the final say in defining what the parts of each person and body of person are. Your uncle, Supreme Court, is oddly involved in your family though. He has 9 personalities or justices that make decisions together. If there's a large enough controversy, he can determine what the Constitution and the laws want, and can even dismiss some laws if it decides that you or your siblings won't like it. Something known as the judicial review. He and his subordinate circuit and district courts form the judicial branch of the federal government. Your power involves regulating interstate commerce. What does that mean? Commerce between states. What is a state in this context? The village of the United States organizes itself into many subdivisions, not states, each of which also has a trusted family that's authority over some houses of the village or state governments. In a format known as federalism, both state and federal governments have power over their subjects, some unique to one type of governments, and others shared between them. So what exactly constitutes interstate commerce? Well, that's the point. The Commerce Clause is vague enough that it has the potential to be stretched indefinitely, which allows it to challenge state power and disrupt the balance of federalism, given that your uncle slowly but surely shifting ideology desires it. Old Supreme's first knock on the state government's door was in 1824, when Marshall Court, the Supreme Court under the leadership of John Marshall, who was also responsible for expanding the judicial branch's power in many other areas, took on the case Gibbons v. Ogden. Gibbons v. Ogden featured businessman Thomas Gibbons challenging the steamboat monopoly held by Aaron Ogden on the path between the states New York and New Jersey, which was granted by the New York legislature. Navigation is a form of commercial intercourse, and interstate navigation is a form of interstate commerce, as a commercial activity that spread across most states. Uncle Supreme proclaimed, "By the power of you, the Commerce Clause, the New York government cannot regulate interstate commerce." Hence, Gibbons won the lawsuit, but the case's implications spread far beyond steamboats. Marshall defined commerce in very broad terms as all activities that involve commercial interaction, and among states as involving more than one state. By concept of stare decisis, Marshall decision is used as a reference to future Supreme Court decisions, and held to very high importance. Overturning it requires a profound shift in core ideology, and a strong reason to do so. In addition, it already changed the interpretation of the Constitution forever. Hence, the case set the stage for general trend to expand the extent of your reach over the 20th century. After a century of dormancy, the case National Labor Relations Board v. Jones in 1936 ruled that you gave Congress the power to regulate labor relations, and the case Wickard v. Filburn in 1942 marked the peak of your influence, when even keeping executive crop production to oneself is considered as interfering with the interstate market. Your power was unhinged, it seems, and will remain so for a while. It wasn't until the case U.S. v. Lopez in 1995 when your power was limited again. A student named Alfonso Lopez Jr., who was eligible to own a handgun, carried the 38 caliber revolver to school and was promptly charged for violating an act that bans the possession of firearms in school zones. Lopez claimed that the act is unconstitutional, and the case was summoned to a Supreme Court. While the leading dissenting opinion of Justice Breyer argued that, since guns can lead to violence when they are present at school, which in turn reduces the quality of education and ultimately harms the job market, Lopez still won in a close 5-4 ruling, and the Commerce Clause could not apply. Even though your reach was a bit ridiculous in your arguments against Lopez of that specific case, it did put a stop to your momentum. That, alongside the subsequent U.S. v. Morrison in 2000, marked your first defeats in a while, and your power has been restrained to mostly trade and commercial once again. That's where we stand for now until something changes again. No matter your glory and notoriety, we as AP and NSL students and US citizens have a lot to thank you for. You taught us what federalism is, how it can be offset, but ultimately self-repairs, and just how smart the Supreme Court is arguing.